Adam Sherman, and welcome to Breaking and Adventuring, a live look inside the world and sphere of the Adams County Sheriff's Office. On today's show, we have Deputy Trinecia Jones, and we're just going to get into a little bit about just experiences, life within the Sheriff's Office, life outside of the Sheriff's Office, and just whatever we may come across. Are you cool with that?
That works
We're
for
good?
me.
All right. So first of all, just give us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what you're interested in, and just kind of what led you to the law enforcement world.
Well, I am born and raised Denver, Colorado. I'm from the Park Hill neighborhood. My neighborhood means everything to me. I grew up there as far as like sports and everything. I was heavily involved with DPD.
Okay.
They funded a lot of the sports that were at the rec centers in Denver. So I got into being community with police because I played basketball. As far as getting involved in law enforcement, my brother is my biggest role model, and he started out with the Denver Sheriffs, and then he went to DPD, and I was like, all right, he did it, I can do it.
Yeah, challenge accepted, huh?
And
Yeah.
pretty much, and he led the way, but you know, I'm the better at it, so
That's fair.
and then outside of work, I'm just a regular person. I love running. I'm training for a half marathon in May. Colfax Marathon.
What?
Yep. So
All right.
doing
Nice.
that. I hang out with family and friends. I play chess. I just like being outdoors. Anything that the state has to offer, I love being involved in it.
Awesome. And you're a great state for it, you know, a native, so you know all about it.
Mm-hmm.
How long, or what's the age gap between you and your brother?
So I have an older brother, and it's 13 and a half years between me and him. And then the middle child that is in law enforcement, it's 6.5 years.
Okay.
difference.
So he was in it a little bit while you were kind of going through high school and
Yep.
stuff.
Well, he was in it. He started when I was in college.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess with that as the backdrop, when you started your career, was it what you expected, or how'd that go for you?
So I didn't know what to expect. I was in security at the Auraria campus. And so with there, you have Auraria campus police, and they tell you things, but you never know what it is until you actually experience for yourself. I got hired on with the Weld County Sheriff's Office back in 2014, and I still knew nothing about it. I literally got my teachings from the first season of Orange is the New Black.
All right.
And that's what I
And
went
you're like,
in.
all right, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I went in knowing, like, all right, this is how it is when I go
Yeah.
work in the jail.
Man, every half hour is going to be off the hook. Yeah. Nice. So once you got your foot in the door and you got yourself adjusted, what kind of changes did you have to make in your personal life to accommodate this new career?
One of the changes that I had to make was being more communicative. I can talk to anybody, but empathizing with somebody, sympathizing with somebody in a professional manner is something that I had to learn. My friends come to me for advice all the time, and it's friends and family, and that's very easy to do because I have a personal relationship with them. But being in a professional setting, it was something that I had to learn how to still show up for somebody in need, but be able to separate professionalism and how I feel towards that situation or incident or whatever that may be. So kind of compartmentalizing my feelings from the job was something that I had to learn going into it.
And that's wild too. I didn't think of that either, getting into this, to where you're wearing so many hats at the same time. So you're there, I'm like, okay, cool. This is my role. I'm a deputy. But then, you have somebody who, their background, why they might be in our jail or going into the courthouse, but yet they're coming to you. And at that point, you just got to be human.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so putting that aside, absolutely. No, that's amazing. What have been some of your craziest or like funniest experiences? So like when you think back, just like, man, that was wild, or man, I couldn't stop laughing when this happened.
Well, this actually happened when I was at Weld County. I was working in a female housing unit, and it was a special needs housing unit. And would have to do rows every 5 to 15 minutes because it was special needs / a suicide housing unit.
Okay.
So depending on what levels of suicide housing people that we had in there was the amount of time we had to do our row checks. And I had a person that was incarcerated, and she kept making grunting noises. And I would go and check on her. And anytime that I went up to her, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And she would speak to me as a regular person. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's good. Everything's okay. I'm like, all right. All day for my 12-hour shift, I would say 10 of those hours, because I had lunch, that would be the same reoccurring thing. And then she would giggle, she would laugh, then she would make these grunting noises, and I would always check on her. Well, something didn't seem too right. And Nurse Deb was actually with me at Weld County before she came here.
Okay.
And prior to me getting off shift, I had called her, and I'm like, Deb, something doesn't seem right with her, but every time I go ask her what's going on, is everything okay? She's saying that she's fine. And I'm looking at her, I'm observing her, and everything looks fine. So I ended up getting relieved from my shift, and night shift's medical team came up to come check on her. That whole time she was in labor.
Oh.
And she had a baby later on that evening. So I'm off work now, shift change, and she had a baby. And so that whole time she was in labor. And it was like one of those things of, oh my goodness, like what just happened?
Yeah, and she's like, I'm good.
Yeah. And literally that. And I don't have kids, so I don't know how to relate.
Yeah, go, whatever.
I had to go by what she was saying. And then once medical teams came up there and assessed her, and come to find out she was pregnant, and she ended up having a baby.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you came back next day. I'm like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
what I miss? That's wild. So you're with Weld County, and then you come to Adams. Mm-hmm. What are some of the assignments that you've had in your career with us?
So I'm currently on the transport unit, and I love it. I love not being on night shift. I'll be completely honest. And one of the things about being on the transport unit is I love the jail. There's some deputies that want to be out on patrol. I started off in the jail, and I just fell in love with it. I love being able to, in one instance, have a conversation with somebody, and it's just like this. And then we have a code, and now we have to code switch and say, hey, if it's a suicidal party or something, we have to, hey, calm down. Let's talk about this, what's going on. So being able to put on different hats and adjust differently really fast is something that's really cool that I love about this job. And then being on transport, I kind of hid behind being in the jail. Mm. And so now that I'm on transport, I'm halfway outside of the jail. And one of the things for me is I wasn't necessarily nervous to be in my uniform, but when you're in the jail, that's all you know. So now you're out on the street in uniform, and you're like, whoa, this is a whole new world. And it was really eye-opening and refreshing that so many people in the Adams County community would say thank you for your service or have slight conversations with you. And that's when I really started to blossom and love being on the transport unit even more. And a lot of the times those conversations will happen at the gas station or I'm at our car wash or stuff like that, but still having that opportunity that somebody sees our service and they appreciate us for that. So that's one thing that I love. During COVID, I was a medical deputy. So I seen a lot, heard a lot, did a lot, had to adjust to a lot. And that was one of my best assignments working in medical.
So, and I'll ask you, because I don't know at the time, was that before the behavioral health unit opened up?
It was after.
It was after?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that medical unit is no joke.
Yeah, yep.
And I unfortunately, my experience was long before that, but it was basically everybody went to medical, either, actual medical issues, detoxing off a substance, suicide ideation. We don't know where else to put you.
Yeah,
just like medical is a catch-all. So like medical back in the day was off the hook. And I'm glad because the behavioral health unit was definitely needed. So I'm glad that finally came on board.
And even though it was on board, we still got the overflow of it.
Oh, yeah.
And the pandemic was a really tough time, not only for us as deputies, but for those that were incarcerated as well. And so it was an overflow of medical issues, like you said, mental health issues, and just whatever.
Yeah.
And it was some of those things that we had to adjust to. And it with COVID, it was kind of hard too, because you have somebody that has symptoms and then that whole housing unit has symptoms. It's like, now what do we do? How do we maneuver through that? And it was actually, as tough as that time was, it was really fun and really cool being a team player with the medical unit, because you really had to merge both medical and security staff together to tackle on the changes that the jail was going through.
Yeah, and dealing with isolating people who are already isolated is is a nightmare. And just, hearing, overhearing some of the meetings at the time of like, all right, we're shuffling here. We had this there. And yeah,
100%.
So kind of playing chess every day. So good thing you're a chess player. So you're on transport now.
Yes.
So for those that might not know, what does the transport unit do?
So the transport unit, we do numerous things. We do med runs, so scheduled med runs. If one is incarcerated and they have a scheduled appointment, we take them on their med runs. We pick up warrants all across the state, and we pick up writs. And writs are if somebody is in a different agency, we pick them up and bring them to our courthouse for their court date with us. And then after they have been seen in front of the judge, we return them to their agency. There are times that we transport juveniles from one facility to the next. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're driving and moving and grooving.
And you're all over the state.
Yes.
So one day you might just be in the Denver metro area doing med runs or whatever, and the next minute you might be in the furthest corners.
Yes.
On your next day.
And a few weeks ago, me and my partner Anderson, we had a DOC run, and those are further out DOC correctional facilities that are super far out. So I was actually in Delta, Colorado, and that's 5.5 hours one way on a good day. When we started out the day, it wasn't too bad. We hit traffic, and it was like, okay, now the rain is starting to come down a little bit.
Yeah.
We go a little bit more, the sun is out, and it was like we experienced all 4 seasons. He was the first one to drive. We got there, we picked up our person for court. Now it's my turn to drive.
He's like, I'm good.
Yeah, pretty much. Everything's good. So now we start the journey for me. It's still sunshine, all of that. And next thing you know, it starts snowing. And we get closer and closer, and we get to the Eisenhower Tunnel. And CSP is right there, and they're like, tunnel's closed. So they didn't let us through.
Oh,
and
man.
we had to shimmy all the way back and take a different trail through the mountains. I couldn't even tell you. If it wasn't for GPS, me and Anderson would probably still be out there right now.
Now, how much time did that add to that return trip?
So that ended up being a 14-hour day, maybe a 15-hour day.
Gracious.
So it added another 4.5, 5 hours. And so we piggied all the way back around the mountain, and we got to another side of I-70 East, and they're like, yeah, this is closed. And we're like, we have one on board. Like, we have to get back to the facility. And they let us through, and they were like, just have your lights on and be very careful when you go through here. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm driving, and then next thing you know, I realized why I said be careful, because it was a maze just going through there. Semi trucks left and right. And a lot of them didn't have chains on. So.
Yeah, and they just stop wherever they can, wherever they end up slowing down. Oh, man.
And so that was the reason why it was all shut down. But we made it through eventually.
Yeah, is that one where you get out and you just like give a hug, like, oh my gosh.
Pretty much.
We survived. Yeah.
And it was one of those things of Anderson was a great partner, because he would talk to me for a little bit. And I like to say that I'm cool, calm, and collected. On the outside, I was that. On the inside, I was just like, oh my God. Like, just stay calm, just breathe. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Did you have to like peel your fingers off the steering wheel?
Pretty much. I'm like, all right, relax your hands. All right, you're good. Like, and so I'm self-talking myself. And he's sitting next to me, and he'll talk to me a little bit. And then I guess he would see the wheels turning in my head, and he was like, all right, let me give her a little time to be quiet. So it was really good, a good even balance between the both of us.
Nice. So do you always have 2 people, 2 deputies on a run, or are you ever alone, or how does that work out?
Not necessarily. So if it's a DOC run outside of the metro area, or even if it's a county run, if we're going to another county jail, but it's outside of the metro area, then we're always partnered up. If it's in the metro area, the only time we're partners if it's we're picking somebody up on very, very serious charges. Okay. Or if they have been uncooperative in the other agency's care. Okay. And if we're picking up warrants, I say maybe 3 or 4, more than 3 or 4 warrants will be partnered up. But there's most times where we're picking up 1 or 2 people and we're just by ourselves in just like a normal transport.
All right. So let's say you're doing one of those days where you just be bopping around on your own.
All right.
What do you listen to? Are you audiobook? Are you podcast? Are you music? Are you chit-chatting with who you got along for the ride?
It's a little bit of both. Okay. I listen to, if I'm riding by myself, I like to listen to jazz music or
Okay.
like old school music. I don't know why, it just keeps me comfortable, keeps me in the zone. And outside of that, I like listening to the radio. When I was growing up as a kid, that's all I did was listen to the radio. So I
Yeah.
love singing songs at the top of my lungs while
There you go.
driving.
Yeah.
And then
Enjoy this.
and pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And then there are times where I will have conversations with whoever I have on board, and it could be for a number of reasons. The biggest reason is a lot of the times they just want somebody to talk to, treat them human.
Yeah.
And so if that's how you want to engage, for the most part, I'll try to engage like that. But being in the front of my van and they're in the back, sometimes it's hard when you get on E470 or on the highway or something at the wind. But a lot of the times I'll have conversation with them if they want conversation. And if I get somebody that's uncooperative or that may be in crisis, I will also talk to them too. I'll have them sit behind me and just keep them talking, keep them positive, and make sure that at least for that moment while they're with me, they're not thinking about the negative things that they're going through.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I live by. If you're in my presence, if you're going through something, at least for a second, you had an opportunity to smile or not think about what you went through.
And that's smart on you too, to kind of do that divided attention. We're like, hey, what's going on with it? Because they're probably not wanting to go wherever they go back to, or sometimes they might, who knows, but yeah, being able to just get them off that thought process and, that's a great tool to have in your tool belt. So you described the whole Eisenhower Tunnel snow situation, but any other close calls as you've been out and about, tire go out or vehicle breakdown or somebody freak out in the back?
Well, a funny story. Me and Deputy Valentine, we were doing a transport to El Paso County Jail. And I have short arms.
Okay.
And at El Paso County's jail, they have these yellow cement, poles around their intercom.
Okay.
And so I'm driving up to the intercom and I press the button. And I knew something was unusual when I didn't have to use a pin to press the button. I just reached my arm out and I pressed the button. I'm like, all right, this is a good day for that. So I'm like, hey, Adams County here to return what we had on board. So they're like, all right, cool. And the next thing you know, the garage door goes up. Well, I go to put my vehicle in drive, and I drive straight through to go through the garage door. And I hear this, and I'm like, oh, man, the car behind me jacked something up really, really bad. And then I drive into the garage, and the guys on the back, they're like, oh, Jones, you just hit that builder, that cement divider thing right there. And I was like, oh, that was me? And I legit thought it was the vehicle behind me that hit something. And so I scraped up on it, and everything was fine. But it was one of those things of, this day was too good to be true.
Right. There's that thing, that one thing.
And I was like, all right. Yeah. And then I have Valentine. He worries a lot, but he's a great partner. He's like, oh man, Jonesy, are you okay? Like, we got to call Sarah. I'm like, it's cool. Relax. I did what I did. And I'll call him and let him know everybody on board was code 4 and okay. And we were code 4 and okay. But it was just one of those things of, that person behind me really jacked up their
they
vehicle.
need to calm down back there.
Whole time it was me.
Let's start taking pictures. And
Yep.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, I've got a similar story, and there's nothing you can do but just kind of laugh and just like, all right, well, just own it. And
honestly, and that's what it was.
Yeah. I did something similar where I just completely decimated a car, and I got out and looked, and I'm like, Sarge, you're going to want to swing by if you get a chance, just so I can discuss this with you. But so that's funny. Well, this is a weird lifestyle, getting into law enforcement. And I don't know if your brother shared any of this with you through his experiences while you're getting started or even throughout your career, but have you picked up like any interesting or weird like habits that you've implemented into your just daily life just because of what you do in the workspace?
So because I worked in medical during COVID, you had to be really aware of those that were incarcerated, more so for the fact of being isolated if you're sick or you have COVID symptoms on top of already being incarcerated. So that was really, really heavy. And again, one of the things for me is I do things because I empathize with people, but also for my line of work as well. So one of the things I always do is I always make sure everybody's good. I always check on you. And I do that a lot too with some of the inmate workers. I always ask them when their out date is.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to keep bugging you until that. So I'm one of those people that is annoying. I want to know how you're doing. How's your mental health? If your mental health is down, well, here are the resources that you can use to, improve that. So that's one of the things that I've picked up at work, and my friends are like, hey, T, you can relax. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Everything's good. Are you okay? So that's one of the things that I pick up. And being on transport, we have to do vehicle inspection. So I find myself not only doing a vehicle inspection on my work vehicle, but on my vehicle at home.
Safety first. There you go.
Safety first. So that's one of the weird things that I've picked up. But a lot of the things the tools and things that I use at work, I kind of honestly say that I've always done it.
Yeah.
And then my brothers, they were both in the military, and then having one in law enforcement, I just look at their mannerisms and how they move. And so I'm like, all right, well, if it's worked for them for this many years, maybe if I take bits and pieces of what they've done, it'll work for me.
Yeah. No, I like it. It's funny because, and that's a great way to bring into it, because I mean, this business, it's tough. It'll get you down if you let it, but having that positive outlook is incredible. And I don't know anybody that hasn't commented on how much they love seeing that famous Jones smile whenever you're around. Now, you mentioned just checking in on anybody around, coworkers, inmate workers, just whoever's in your housing unit. Has anyone ever come back and circled back, whether it's on the outs or just on another run or something, where they're like, hey, thanks for that. Here's what I've been up to. And just where you almost could be like, oh, cool, I made an impact.
Yeah, I got two stories, and one was kind of recent. So the first one is very old. Again, I was at Weld County prior to here. And one of the things that my brother instilled in me was have a plan, plan and execute. And so that was one thing that I took from him that I implemented in the job. And so when I was working a housing unit, when people would say, hey, Jones, this is my out date, I'm getting out of here. I'm like, well, what's your plan? What are you going to do? And so I would have anybody that was close to having an out date, and especially if they got off while I was on shift, to write down your plan, come up to me, and let's discuss it. And so we would have conversations. And there was one person, and she wrote down her plan. She told me, when I get out of here, I'm going to get a job at the convenience store. I'm going to get my own apartment, and I'm going to stay off drugs and turn my life around. I was like, that's the plan? She said, that's the plan. And I was like, all right, cool. Wished her luck. And a lot of the time, our job is like, we're like a dispatcher. We only see when we're in it, like in that moment. But when people are released, we don't know what happens unless they come back. So, wished her farewell, and that was that. A few months later, I was going home I lived in Greeley. So I was going back home to Denver, and I'm going to the gas station. And I go inside. I wanted some snacks. Go inside, go to the cashier. There she was. And she was like, Jones, is that you? I was like, yeah. And I was like, did you just do what you said you were going to do? And she said, I got an apartment. You see me working at the gas station, and I've been clean off of drugs. And so it was so cool to actually know that I had somebody go up to their room, write down their plans and goals. They talked to me about it. They went in depth with it. And then a few months later, full circle moment, I see that actually happen.
That's cool.
So that was really cool to see. And then fast forward now, one of the things of when you have somebody that gets incarcerated, a lot of emotions go through their head, especially when they have court. And so I had a guy that had court, and I'm escorting him out to go back to the housing unit. And while I was escorting him back, there was two other people talking in master control. So we're waiting for master control to pop the door open. And they started laughing. And so he cursed. And he's like getting pissed, like this isn't funny, and he's cursing and everything. And so once I got him out of the area that we were in, I said, hey, let me pull you to the side for a second. I said, you can't be mad about what's going on right now. I said, you're cursing at somebody that's laughing, and we don't even know if they heard or seen you to know that they're laughing at you. And I let him know, I was like, you just came from the courtroom. I know your emotions and stuff are high, but not everybody is against you. You saw yourself in front of the judge. Allegedly, you did what was said, so now you have to face those consequences yourself. You can't be mad at the world and everything else. And that person was like, yeah, you're right. I'm just frustrated. I'm having a bad day. And I'm like, I get it. I understand that. I could be having a bad day too, but you don't know that. And it's just like sometimes we have to take that responsibility for ourselves. And so I talked to him and walked him down all the way to B module. And by the time I got to B module, he was like, hey, can you tell those people that were in that area that I apologize? And I was like, yeah, I'll for sure go do that. And I did that, even though they never knew what happened in that conversation. It was just the fact of you had somebody that had a court. They're high on emotion. They're blaming somebody or getting mad with somebody that has nothing to do with their situation. We have a conversation. His emotions calm down a little bit. And at the end of it, he's like, hey, can I apologize? And it's like, yeah, I'll send your apology to them and let them know.
Yeah. And that's so relatable. How often does that happen on a daily basis? Frustrated driving, traffic, whatever. Yeah. And you just kind of, it comes out sideways. You're like, all right, let me recenter here and figure this out. Now, and I would get that too, whether, working the jail or driving somebody up to the jail where, somebody's like, oh, I don't want this or don't think back. I'm like, whoa, I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury.
Yeah.
I'm here doing a job. You know what? You handle your business, whatever you're told to do, and turn your life around. And so that you have
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
You have like those just little, key moments that you can maybe make a difference. And it's great that you've had that opportunity because you're right. There's so many times where we have no idea, we do these long shifts. We have no idea if we made a difference or not. And so it's good to kind of have that come around.
And that's one more reason why I love working in the jail. It's because a lot of the times when people come into our agency, they have dealt with the arresting agency. So they're coming in high on emotions, pissed off. You never know what you're going to get sometimes. Sometimes the person can be cooperative. Sometimes it can be different. And the reason why I love working in the jail the most, it's so challenging to be able to see somebody very high on emotions. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let me see if I can calm this person down. And not only is it a challenge for me, but it's also something like they can relate to me and it's freshening up and sharpening my skills as my communication skills. And sometimes it's best to stay on top of that because you never know what kind of situations you can be in or incidents you can be in. And being on transport and being out, the community seeks that comfort in you. And so being able to learn how to talk to people in different states that they're in, it's really helpful. Yeah,
having that, clear head and that forethought and then be able to de-escalate, that's huge. Mm-hmm. And then who knows what kind of situation, you on a run, you might be pumping gas and somebody's freaking out because who knows what happened.
Yeah.
And then you're able just to get into that mode and like, all right, let's triage this one step at a time. So that's amazing. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, we'll transition a little bit more about who's Trinecia outside. So what's a fun fact about you that somebody might not know?
Fun
fact. Or a hidden talent or anything like that?
I wouldn't say it's a hidden talent. I wouldn't say it's a talent at all. So don't think that it is. But I love noise. I love sound.
Okay.
So you'll catch me about 95% of the time singing in the hallway. So I guess a hidden talent is I can hold a note just a little bit.
All right.
But
good enough for government work.
Yeah, pretty much. Or good enough, just for somebody to say, hey, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, it's like if you were going through something or if you were having a bad day, my little note was pretty good enough to crack a smile for you.
There you
go. So I guess that's a hidden talent. But if I had to wrap everything up, just who I am as a person, is, I wouldn't say a talent, but just who I am as a person. People gravitate towards me, and especially if like in time of need or just to have a conversation, a smile and stuff like that. So like I said, I don't know. When I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a superhero. And I knew being a superhero couldn't pay the bills, so I guess my superpower is making somebody smile.
Well, your next best thing. You're right there. You're darn close. One last question for you. So you're out, you're doing your thing, whether you're hiking, hanging out with friends, but somebody maybe just figures out like, wait, you're a cop?
Mm-hmm.
What's like the main question you get when somebody finds out you're in law enforcement?
Oh, man.
Or like it's something common that people are like, oh.
A lot of the time, for me being a woman, they're like, "Are you scared?" And am I scared? And they want to know more about it. And then again, they're like, "Is your job like the movies?" And I was like I said, I watched Orange Is the New Black for educational purpose.
Yeah.
And it was not that at all. I mean, there might be like little bits and pieces there. But more so that, and with the temperature of law enforcement at certain times, I get the question of how do you feel being in law enforcement with certain stories and stuff like that is out. And again, I look up to my brother and my mom. We've made it this far in life. She's done a great job raising us, and just our morals and who we are. I just let them know, like, I'm who I am outside of work is who I am at work, but there's a professionalism to it. Yeah. And so I just roll with the punches. And I educate. That's one of the best things about being in law enforcement is being able to educate, especially when there is things that come out on the news and you only see one side of the story. And if I can't educate, I have my brother to have those conversations as well.
It's great to have that sounding board, but and you're right. And you even hit on it when you're mentioning people getting booked in from like another agency into the jail or even in a transport setting. They don't see, oh, that's Adams County, that's Weld, that's Denver PD. They just see uniform and a badge, and they're like, oh, that's a cop. I don't like you because of my experience or my bias or my background, my perception. So being able to crack through that is amazing. And it sounds like you've done an amazing job. I mean, I can't say enough about you. Everything, everything anybody's ever said. I mean, you're just the most positive person, which is amazing. And
shout out to my mom. It's because of her.
Good job, Mom. She's done an amazing job. I've never even met her, but I'd love to because she's clearly done a great job. But one thing I love that you hinted on is, this is something that you do, but it's not who you are. It hasn't changed who you are. You're still you, and you've brought that to the job. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people, or even just clips you might see on the news, are what you perceive of cops who have brought the job into their personal life, and it's been a negative. And so, being cognizant of that, that's huge. And I think, you can do anything you want in this field with that kind of mentality. Absolutely.
And I'm so glad. I learned that early on in my career working at Aurelia campus, not to lose sight who you are as a person, because once you do that, it's kind of hard to come back from that. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Kind of take off the uniform. Like, all right, cool. I'm back to me.
Yeah.
All right. Now I got to put my armor back on, my superhero cape. All right, I'm on shift, but being able to make that transition is good. Well, I appreciate your time and coming down. And if you ever need a second, got an empty van, I'm sure, I can jump in. I've done it once or twice as overtime gigs a long time ago, but that's got to be a plus too. If you like being outside, you like driving anyway, you get paid for it. That's a win.
And now that it's warmer outside.
Rock the short sleeves. Yeah. All right. Well, that was another episode of Breaking and Adventuring, and feel free to follow us on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, like, subscribe, and check us out on our webpage as well for all things Adams County Sheriff's Office. Just throw that in Google. And if you have any suggestions, questions, things that we can Q&A, you can send us an email at communityconnections@adcogov.org. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Peace.